Hopefully I don't mess it up. It's Crazything here, the airbrush guy. And I am making this video for that person that wants to learn how to airbrush. I get asked at least once a day, if not 1,000 times a day, how do I do this? What kind of paint do you use? What kind of airbrush do you use? How do you do that? I'm gonna try to go over the basics of what I do. I haven't even gotten ready yet this morning. I wanted to do that with you. And sometimes I'll make a regular video and post it, but today I'm going to do this live because I tell everybody all the time, go to my live playlist on my YouTube and there are videos through there on how to clean your airbrush gun, which is a major part of airbrushing. Cleanliness is everything, because you will fight and fight and fight with an issue trying to get past the fact that your airbrush gun isn't clean. So I clean mine out every day I use them. Good morning, Gloria. How are you? We will, since we're live, we're going to have people coming in. I don't know if when this posts, whether or not you'll be able to see that or not. I don't know how it works. I am still pretty new to the whole YouTube live thing, so figured I'd give it a shot. I'm going to try to do the best I can to explain to you how I do things. For the last 3.5 years, I have been airbrushing full time. This is some of my work behind me. I get to live the dream of an artist. That is what the majority of artists out there, that they want their art to be seen. They want that recognition. Well, I have that, and I am a very blessed man for it. But, you know, I don't hold that secret. I want to show you how I do things. With that being said, it's how I do it. It doesn't mean that it's a rule book and that's how you have to do it. Find your own way, and I just hope that what I tell you helps. Does that make sense? I'll try to explain it. I do not have a teaching degree. I just I come on here and I airbrush all the time. I love what I do every day. I'm excited to wake up every day. One of my most common questions is actually, what's your favorite piece? My answer is the next one. So, we're going to go over the very basics. This is an airbrush gun. If you're thinking about getting one, or you already have one, this is what it should look like, completely put together. If you're considering getting one, which one you should get is kind of up to what you plan on doing with it. If you're just going to goof off on some paper or some cardboard or something, you just want to try it just for kicks, then I would suggest not investing a whole lot into it. I have a brand new one right here. This is going to upset a few people, but I'm going to tell you what this is to me. This is what I started with. 9.5 years ago, I was given an airbrush kit with this, paint, and an air compressor all together in one kit, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I airbrushed the actual styrofoam that it came in. I was like, I poured paint in it, turned it on, plugged it in, you know, just like, I got to see what it does. I love it, and I have been going ever since. So with that being said, it worked. Okay, everything about it worked, done great, and then once I started trying to actually accomplish things with it, I had a lot of difficulty. It was quite a learning curve. You got to learn how to reduce things, learn your different paints, your different PSIs, and just like, wow, this is actually, you know, it's cool, but there's a lot to it, and I didn't know that running into it. So I done exactly what you're doing, and I went to YouTube and started searching. Started asking those questions. A lot of people didn't want to answer those questions, or they wanted you to purchase a CD or purchase a subscription, or, well, there's nothing to purchase here from me. I'm just giving you my secrets, well, my information on how I do it. This This is a throwaway gun for me. I use it when I do makeup and airbrush tattoos for kids and stuff like that. I use this 3, 4, 5, 6 times, however many uses I can get out of one. And then once it starts giving me too much trouble, I throw it away. I get my money's worth out of it. I'm not saying it's a bad beginner's gun. But now if you're very artistic and you're thinking, well, you know what? I want to do this as a part-time job, or who knows, maybe one day I want to be like Crazything and do it full time. Then I would stay away from this. This is just going to be an extra step in your process. If I was you, I would go straight to this bad boy. I have 6 of these. It's an Iwata Eclipse. I have heard bad things about the Iwata Niu. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I don't have the experience to tell you how good it works or how bad it works. I'm just going by the rumors I've been told. I'm going to step it up. This is the workhorse of the airbrush world. It's an Iwata Eclipse. They're not that expensive if you plan on making money with it. Or if you plan on really doing some fine detail work and doing your research and learning everything you can, and you're going to be airbrushing quite a bit, go ahead and pick this up. I wouldn't suggest going up past that to, you know, an Iwata Micron, which is like 3-4 times more expensive, and you don't have to worry about all that yet. I don't have one. I've been airbrushing 9.5 years. I will airbrush something round and that big, like a pool ball. I'll airbrush that with this, and then I'll go airbrush a car hood or an entire mural on a building using this same gun. So I can get down itty bitty or spray as big as I want. And there's always the people out there, well, go get you a minigun, go get you a sprayer, go get. I do it all with this. Maybe one day that'll change, but this Iwata Eclipse does it all for me. So, with that being said, now you know what airbrush gun to get. Make sure you have one of these. Not just the quick disconnect, which is very handy, but you got to have an airline to hook up to your airbrush. These can be hardwired in with just your hose connected to your airbrush gun. That's not a problem. I went ahead and got the quick disconnect so that I can change guns. That's all that is. You pull back on this. Anybody that's familiar with airlines at all will know. Quick disconnect. I'm not screwing it on and putting it back on, threading it at all. It's quick, easy to go. Grab my next gun, put it on there, good to go. Now, something you're going to notice in my videos is there's a piece of tape on my... Now, I didn't put it on there and forget about it. It's on there with a purpose. It's dirty. It's been on there a while, and you probably can't even see it anymore, but there used to be a W written on there. That W stands for white. This is my white airbrush gun. I will only put white in this. I will never have to worry about getting black specks or colored specks or anything else like that in my airbrush paint, because it's only going to be used for white. Now that doesn't mean that you can do that, because you would need several guns to do that. It took me a few years to build my inventory and get to that point, but that's why it's there. I like to mark everything. I clean my guns out with water. I mark my water bottles with the word water. It's been on there a while. It's just quick references to save a lot of mistakes down the road, because God goodness, I've made them. I've made a lot of those mistakes. So a piece of tape helps me, keeps me from making that mistake again. I'm going to use the piece of tape. Water is your friend in this line of work. But now let's go over the air compressors. When I first started, I had a little bitty compact air compressor. I personally need between 25 and 30 psi to accomplish what I do. You can do that, but it needs to be consistent, okay? Not just a 30 psi burst and then it drops way down. That doesn't work. PSI is your pounds per square inch. That's your pressure. That's your air pressure coming through this hose to your airbrush gun. You need that. Now these days I have probably 4. Yeah, I think I still have 4 little air compressors. But that's not what I use in my shop. That big boy right there is a 60-gallon DeWalt air compressor with as much air as I will ever need. If I'm airbrushing out here heavily and consistently, it'll give me all the air pressure I need, and it'll only kick on about every 30 minutes. Doesn't mean you need an air compressor that big, but I airbrush more than your average airbrusher. That's not a challenge. It's just the truth. There's not a lot of us out there that airbrush daily, that airbrush several projects in a day. There's a few of us out there, and I'm one of them. So I need a large air compressor to do the job. You can get by with a smaller one, no problem. Get that 25 to 30 psi. That's what you're looking for. So now I've got my airflow connected to my airbrush gun, my Iwata Eclipse. I'm going to show you a little bit of the basics on this. This front piece is nothing more than a needle protector. If you're new to this, keep that on there. But what you're going to have is tip dry. I'll show you. I use Crazything. I get this from Coast Airbrush. No, I'm not a sponsor yet. Crazything opaque airbrush paint. Got a whole box over here full of it. Crazything. These bottles are about empty. I go through one of them big bottles of black and white every month. I also use the Crazything Wicked line. These are all water-based paint, which means I'm going to clean my guns out with water. That's all I use. 99% of the time, I'm cleaning these guns out with water. I do it on a daily basis. I'll get a cleaner out every now and then if I'm having any issues, but this bottle of cleaner has lasted me over a year and a half, 2 years. That's how little I use cleaners. I don't need it. I clean them out every day so nothing's going to get dry. So you put your material in here. As you can see, it's nice and clean. There's no color in there. You don't see any flakes. There's no specks, no dirt. I know the camera's not going to want to pick it up. Right now there's nothing but water in it from cleaning yesterday. I will fill this up. Put my lid back on. And make sure your little hole in the center here, in that cap, has to be clear, okay? You have to be able to see through that. It's pulling that air. It's not really pulling the air as much as the air needs somewhere to go. It's like a vent. If it's not able to vent because of a clog or some issue, that lid will come jumping off of your airbrush gun, and I have had that happen. The end can get clogged, so now you're forcing air into this airbrush gun and it's got nowhere to go because it's supposed to come out this end. Well, once that happens, it's got to come out the top, resulting in like bubbles and stuff like that in your paint. You could a lot of times either hear it or see, like watch this. See when I'm just releasing air, let's say there's a clog. See what that clog does? Causing the air to go through your paint or water or whatever the case may be. See how it settled down? See the bubbles? So if it's got nowhere to go and that hole's clogged, it will throw your lid right off. That's not any fun. I done that airbrushing a mural on a wall one time in a carpeted room, and the end got clogged because I rubbed my finger over it, just like that. And when I did, it shot that lid off. It soaked or splattered all under my hat, all over my face. I still got the hat inside, it's got splatters on it. But then it got in my eye. That was dangerous. I'm at a client's house. How unprofessional is that? And luckily I didn't get anything on the carpet. There was a few spots on the wall I was able to clean up really quick. But hopefully I can save you guys that mistake, because I didn't realize what had happened till later. Always keep that little vent hole clean. Keep an eye on it while you're airbrushing. Make sure it stays clean. So right now I've got water in here, guys. This is a double action airbrush gun. When you push down, you're releasing air. You're pushing the valve stem, you're opening it through your hose, releasing your air. How much air is up to you, but the maximum is up to your regulator. Right here is my regulator. I have it set at about 30 psi right now. You can turn that up or down however you choose. It's always a good idea to have an inline set up there, an inline regulator. It's also got an air dryer on it that keeps water from getting through here, condensation. I have another inline dryer on my air compressor. So I've got two inline dryers from there to here to keep water from building up and getting into my paint, which will get into your project. Told you, I'm trying to go over it all. Trying to remember everything for you. So on this, I don't know how much of a beginner you are. So some of this you may have already known and already figured out. And that's cool. But I know there's a couple of you watching, you don't know any of this yet. So I'm going to try to cover everybody. Now with this, push down, lets the air out, releases the air. That is where your finesse comes later. And then also when you pull back on this trigger, that's when it's going to release up here. You're pulling a needle valve backwards. And you know how a needle funnels down to a point. So once you're pulling that point backwards, it's allowing material to pass. So what I'm going to do, being double, I'm going to push down, pull back. See that? Now that was full on spray, everything I had. Now watch what happens when I just do a little bit and I start controlling it. See that? See the difference? See, now there's just a little. There's a lot, there's a little. There's a lot, there's a little. That's what you have to learn. Now a lot of people make the same mistake I made. They pour paint in there and they just start doing it to it. And then they wonder why they start having all these problems. For one, you haven't learned how to use it yet. So, I've got a great suggestion for you. Put water in it. Just like I did, right now. If your airbrush gun, especially if you're having mechanical issues, I get that question all the time. Well, my airbrush gun's doing this, or it's doing that. Is it clean? Oh yeah, I've cleaned it like 7 times. I can't get it any cleaner. I don't know what the problem is. Put water in it. Quit putting paint in it if you have a problem. Put water in it. If it'll spray water out, it should spray your paint out. Or at least it could give you a start, somewhere to begin. So, I'm done with the water. That was right on my foot. Alright, I'm done with the water. Spray it out, dry it out. I'm waiting for my air compressor to kick on here in a minute. It's getting about that spot. If it does, it'll get loud for about a minute, minute and a half, and then I'll continue the video. I'm not editing it. I don't do all that fancy stuff. So if it kicks on, just give me a moment. So now if you remember, this is my white airbrush gun. So I'm going to be putting my white paint in it. Here's another issue people do, especially people that are doing this for a hobby. They set their paint on a shelf somewhere. It sits there for a week, a month, 6 months, or longer. And then they grab that off the shelf and they pour it into their gun and they're like, I'm going to keep it. It doesn't work. Paint separates and it separates fast. I'm sure there's 100 different scenarios on why it does it. Heat, temperature, humidity, how cold it is, or the alignment of the sun and the moon versus, your finger. I don't know. I'm not a chemist by any means, but I do know it separates. Do not let it freeze. The way I understand it, which could be completely way off, but I have witnessed it, once you let it freeze, even a little, it won't go back together. Like, it almost changes it molecularly on such a small level. Like, it doesn't want to ever work correctly again. Just don't let it freeze. I pack all mine up in the wintertime and I carry it in the house just in case. And I don't think it'll freeze out here, but just in case. I'm not going to lose a whole box full of hundreds of dollars of paint just for that one reason. So, guys, Shepherd, good morning. Don't let your paint freeze. But what you do need to do daily, shake your paint. There's not much left in here. Shake your paint every day. What's it going to hurt? Let's say it's already mixed up and it didn't separate. Then I'm not hurting anything by shaking my paint. Give it a good shake. Get it all back together. Make sure it's not separated. If it separates, the thick stuff's going to go at the bottom. All the binders and adhesion promoters and stuff like that, all the different chemicals that are in paint, it's all going to float to the top. So when you go to pour it in here, guess what? You didn't get all your paint. You didn't get everything needed to do the job. Does that make sense? You're thinking about it now, and there's a couple of you out there like, oh man, I did that the other day. Now I know what happened. I didn't shake my paint. And I used to fight it. I did. Before I got in the habit of doing the right things, I would come out here and be like, man, this thing, it worked great yesterday. What in the world is the problem? Or, Friday, I had done great, and then by Monday or Tuesday when I'm airbrushing again, nothing works correctly. And this is all it took. All you gotta do is shake your paint. Hello, Megan, how are you? So guys, with that being said, you still don't want to just pour the paint in there and start spraying. Now you can, if you're just looking to cover something and get a whole bunch of coverage, you can pour the paint directly in there and it will spray out. But what you're not gonna do is you're not gonna be able to get a lot of your fine lines and details as good. It just doesn't flow correctly. So you need something to help that flow. And that's where this comes in. This is my 4012 reducer. I buy it at the same place. It's Crazything brand. I buy it at the same place that I buy my paint. This reducer will help me with my paint flow. I'm going to add it first. So divide your cup here into thirds. Okay, that's what I do mentally when I picture this. And I'm sure another guys will give you percentages and tell you exactly how many drops or how many milliliters or whatever. I'm not that good, guys. I'm not a scientist. What I will do is pour about a third in the gun. Which that is a little bit more than a third. See if you guys can see it. Now, it's time for some big old numbers and math. You ready? I'm going to spray a little bit of that out. Alright, so I am about right there. You can't see me. Let me get over here. I am about right there. So the next third will be right here. And that's going to be paint. The next third is going to be nothing. I'm filling this up 2/3 of the way full. But what I'm really doing, and here's the number you're going to need to remember. You need to mix your reducer and your paint 50-50. So I'm going to take my shaken paint and I'm going to pour it in to make up about 2/3. That is going to give me my 50-50. Now, see how well we can do this. Can you see that I am not full? There's about a third of that cup still empty. And of course the paint is not mixed with the reducer yet. So, what are we going to do? I use a little handy dandy brush. Make sure it's clean and it doesn't have anything on it. When you do this right here, it'll hopefully pull any loose little brush strands or anything. Don't get the cheap package of 50 brushes at the dollar store either, because it will fall apart on you so fast. I put this in here and I mix it up. You can put the lid on it and just shake it vigorously. That'll work too. But you know what? A man with a paintbrush in his hand has got a plan. That's, I don't know, sounded good, right? I'm going to mix this up pretty good. And then I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes before I decide to paint with it. That lets all the little itty bitty chemicals in there get happy with the reducer and the paint, and they all sit in there and have a little party and they're playing cards or whatever. They're happy. Once they're happy, I'm happy. So, if you mix your paint 50-50, you should have the consistency of milk, okay? Not the consistency of water. Milk is a little thicker than water, right? You ever paid any attention to that? Swirl some around in a glass. Swirl some water around in a glass. Take another glass and swirl some milk in it, and you'll see that that milk is just a little slower. It's just a little thicker, but not by much. Okay, so you want that to be this, just that thin. And it is very thin. I don't know that the camera will pick it up at all, but it is mixed up. See how thin it is? It's nice and thin. That is where I need to start. Always keep rags laying around for cleanup. I have several, and as you can tell, it's been used a time or two. About time for a new one. What's up, Bobby? So now I'm going to put my lid on here and let that rest for a few minutes. 10-15 minutes is fine. You can use it now. Just like for it to be happy. I'm going to clean my brush up some so the paint doesn't dry on it. Now, as far as using your airbrush gun, I'm not going to sit here and go over every little step of using it. That's the fun part that you need to do. You really need to get you something, a big sheet of paper, piece of cardboard, somebody, anything you want, and go over it. What's up, Grizz? Start spraying. There's a needle valve in there, and I've got a saying, I've heard it somewhere, I don't know who I stole it from. Keep your needle wet. What that means is keep painting, keep practicing, keep trying, keep at it, push further and further, learn, and absolutely just have fun with it. That's probably the biggest thing, is just have fun with it. If you're enjoying it and you're getting to create stuff, your creativity and imagination will spill out if you have that artistic ability, and you're just going to love it. People can airbrush anything and everything. That's the cool thing about it. There's so many different things between fabrics and hard surfaces that you can paint now that you've got an airbrush gun. So go out there and try it. You'll learn it's a little different when you're painting on metal, because it's such a slick surface that your thin paint will splatter on you. Well, that means you may have too much air pressure, or your paint's too thin. Back the air pressure off. Maybe thicken your paint up a little bit. All those different little techniques, which is another reason why I left a third of my cup on my airbrush gun empty, so that you can adjust it one way or the other. When you're done, at the end of the day, and you're not airbrushing anymore, pour it out and clean it out. Manufacturer will probably tell you just keep pouring water and spraying and pour water and spray until you spray clean. That'll get you by in a hurry. Me, I take my airbrush guns apart every day and I clean them every day. Flushing them out, it helps, but I have proven it doesn't get them all the way clean. Now, if you want to know how to clean them, I do have videos in here. I know there's at least 3-4 videos on how to take your airbrush guns apart and how to clean them. So please check those out once you get that far. I hope this video helped. If it did, can you please let me know? That'll make me feel good and keep me making more videos for you. But for now, I'm going to go. I'm going to go on a different platform, go live over there, and airbrush for the Crazything Army. If you don't know who the Crazything Army is, well, that's you. It's everybody that ever has anything to do with me. If you watch me, if you push buttons for me, you support me, you buy from me, anything, just watching this video, you are a part of the Crazything Army. And the Crazything Army is growing every day, and I love it. I love what I do. So thank each and every one of you. If you hear the sound of my voice, you are Crazything Army. And we only have the one rule, and that is that you are awesome. So enough about me and the Crazything Army. It's about you. Go airbrush. Go enjoy it. Go have fun. Me, I'm going to go. And I'll see you in the next one.